Holy shit. He said,
everybody trying to be a victim. Like, what's this girl, Meghan Markle? Ah, seemed like a nice lady, just complaining. I was like, didn't she hit the light skin lottery and still going on complaining, acting all dumb like she don't know nothing. Going on Oprah, I didn't know. I had no idea how racist they were. It's the royal family. You didn't Google these motherfuckers?
After this, the stage lights dim, the crowd buzzes with anticipation, and Chris Rock, one of the sharpest comedic voices alive, steps out into the spotlight. For decades,
the biggest addiction in America is attention. We are addicted to attention. Easiest way to get attention is to
Meghan Markle just picked up a title nobody wants in 2025. No trophy, no red carpet speech, just a wave of headlines calling her one of the most disliked public figures of the year. Let that really sink in. Not long ago, most people barely knew who she was. Before Prince Harry, she was part of a legal drama series that rarely trends now, and her name wasn't exactly household status. Fast forward a few short years, and suddenly, she's at the center of global debate. That kind of rise is wild. What really shocked people wasn't just the criticism, it was the level of it. Major comedians, talk show hosts, animated shows, even late-night panels all took their shot. And here's the twist. Many critics argue she gave them the material herself. The interviews, the public statements, the highly produced specials, each moment added more fuel to the conversation. It wasn't random internet noise, it was primetime commentary from names that usually play it safe. That's what made it hit harder. These aren't reckless personalities who speak without thinking. These are A-list figures who are careful, strategic, and fully aware of the backlash that can come from targeting someone tied to royalty. Yet one by one, they leaned in anyway. That raised a bigger question. What shifted so dramatically?
They're so racist, they're so racist. Some of the shit she went through was not racism. It was just some in-law shit. Because she's complaining. I'm like, what the fuck is she talking about? No, they're so racist. They wanted to know how brown the baby's gonna be. I'm like, that's not racist. Because even black people want to know.
That even people known for being diplomatic decided to step forward with criticism. The turning point for many viewers came when major comedians stopped tiptoeing around the topic. When someone with serious industry weight openly challenged her public narrative, the tone changed overnight. It wasn't just jokes anymore. It became commentary on branding, public image, and the gap between personal storytelling and public perception. That's when things escalated. One comedian in particular drew major attention by questioning the way certain experiences were framed in interviews. His set didn't rely on insults. It focused on contrast, comparing public claims with public records, pointing out inconsistencies, and doing it with timing sharp enough to spark headlines everywhere. Supporters felt he was unfair. Critics felt he said what many were already whispering. Either way, the conversation exploded. From that moment on, the gloves seemed to come off. The tone shifted from quiet skepticism to open debate. Whether you see it as justified critique or over-the-top piling on, one thing is clear: the narrative around Meghan changed fast. And once that shift happened, it moved at lightning speed. Think about the scale of this situation for a second. Meghan married into one of the oldest and most recognized royal institutions in the world, an institution that has operated under strict tradition for generations. Then later, when tensions surfaced, she expressed surprise at how difficult it all felt. That contrast is what some comedians focused on. Chris Rock didn't ease into it. He basically said, if you step into a system with a long history and intense scrutiny, you can't act stunned when it comes with complications. His point wasn't subtle. You knew the spotlight was massive when you walked in.
Talking about she didn't know. It's the royal family. They're the original racists. Pathetic pictures. This is me eating sushi. Like me. This is me 25 years ago when I was hot. Like me. Oh!
Then he addressed the moment that caused one of the biggest global headlines, the conversation about what a future child might look like. Meghan described it as deeply troubling. Chris looked at that and offered a different perspective. He argued that conversations about appearance can happen in many families of all backgrounds and don't automatically equal something sinister. That comment made the room tense. When a black comedian framed it that way on stage, it shifted the conversation instantly. Suddenly, agreeing with him didn't feel like crossing a social line. It felt like open debate. That moment cracked the door wide open. After that, other comedians didn't hesitate. Joe Coy stepped onto one of the biggest platforms in entertainment, the Golden Globes, and dropped a single comparison that had the crowd reacting. Instantly, he likened Harry and Meghan's public saga to a show about a wealthy, dramatic family where not much actually happens. It was short, sharp, and the audience got it right away. Award show hosts usually keep it light. Smile, toss out safe jokes, move on. Joe Coy didn't play it safe at all. He went straight at the topic and didn't soften it. Then he mentioned the streaming deal. That's when the whispers grew louder. Reports said the couple signed a deal worth tens of millions. Critics began asking a simple question. What exactly came out of it? What projects truly connected with viewers? When a host says that in a room full of Hollywood executives and actors and the audience laughs, that reaction says a lot about the mood in the industry. Then Jimmy Kimmel joined the mix. He pointed out what many people had quietly wondered about. Harry and Meghan said they left royal life due to feeling mistreated and facing intense public scrutiny. They chose to relocate to the United States, a country with its own complicated social history.
She was hunting for a man in England. She wanted wealth and she wanted fame.
What's she talking about? I didn't know. That's like marrying into the Budweiser family and going.
Kimmel didn't need to spell out the irony. He just let the pause do the work. The audience filled in the rest. After that, he turned to Harry's memoir, 600 pages detailing struggles, conflicts, and personal pain. Kimmel highlighted the contrast. A prince born into extreme privilege, writing hundreds of pages about hardship. That comparison fueled even more debate. Supporters argue that emotional pain isn't erased by wealth. Critics argue that perspective matters. And when late-night hosts frame it that bluntly, it sticks. What changed in all of this wasn't just the jokes. It was the tone. The shift from careful politeness to open critique signaled that public sentiment was evolving. Whether you see the comedy as unfair or justified, the pattern is clear. Once major entertainers decided the topic was fair game, the flood of commentary became impossible to ignore. Kimmel didn't just joke about the memoir. He turned it into a children's book bit on national television, and the crowd ate it up. Instead of yelling or attacking, he shrunk the drama down to something simple and almost silly. That's what made it sting. The issue for many viewers wasn't just that Harry shared personal struggles, it was that deeply private family matters were laid out in detail and sold worldwide. Stories about his grandmother, his father, his brother, packaged, printed, and promoted. Kimmel didn't need wild exaggeration. He just pointed at the situation and laughed, and the audience followed. Then Jimmy Fallon zoomed in on something tiny. So tiny, it somehow annoyed people even more. Meghan posted a video about pretzels, not cooking them, not creating a recipe, just transferring them from one bag into another container. That was the content. Fallon mentioned it casually, and the crowd looked confused. Here's someone living in a luxury California mansion, financially secure beyond most.
This is sweet. Meghan Markle said she has a finger they can use if they need.
So quiet and empty here. If we moved her, then people would think we're really serious about wanting to be normal. It does seem
People's imagination. Filming snack organization like it's groundbreaking lifestyle advice. The gap between everyday struggles and that kind of content felt massive. For some, it crossed from funny to tone-deaf real quick. And then came the interviews. First Oprah, then a streaming documentary, then more televised appearances. Each time, the message centered on wanting privacy and peace. But each message was delivered through another high-profile media event. That contrast didn't go unnoticed. At a certain point, critics stopped seeing it as simply sharing a personal journey. They started seeing a pattern, visibility paired with claims of wanting distance from visibility. That contradiction fueled late-night monologues for months. Stephen Colbert barely had to lift a finger. During one appearance, Meghan mentioned that she and Harry call each other H and M, referencing the clothing brand. She said it warmly, like it was adorable. Colbert's reaction said more than any punchline could. The audience burst out laughing. For people who publicly stepped back from royal life to be more normal, that branding moment felt corporate, almost like a couple turning themselves into a logo. Regular couples don't announce nicknames on national TV. It felt less like romance and more like strategy. Colin Jost took it in a different direction. He pointed out the uncomfortable middle ground the couple seems to occupy. Britain feels distant. America feels skeptical. They're not fully embraced in either space. Jost framed it as two people who made a dramatic exit but are still figuring out where they actually land. That line hit hard because it wasn't loud. It was blunt. He also zeroed in on Harry specifically. Before stepping away, Harry had a defined public identity. Imperfect, yes, but rooted in tradition and service. He had a clear role. After leaving, that role changed completely. Critics argue he traded structure for uncertainty.
Time to do our daily $250,000 sponsored Instagram post.
I shouldn't have left the made-up nonsense.
Oh, they had me driving for Uber Eats, but there were too many damn rules. Don't touch the food. Don't taste the food. Drive on the road.
I'm sorry.
Supporters say he chose personal freedom, but the shift is undeniable. When comedy shows start treating your life pivot as a sketch premise, the cultural perception has shifted in a major way. Saturday Night Live added its own spin, framing the couple's new chapter as awkward and undefined. When the biggest sketch show in the country turns your relationship into satire, that signals something about public mood. It doesn't mean everyone agrees, but it shows the narrative has moved beyond tabloids into mainstream humor. Trevor Noah's arc might be the most telling. At first, he defended Meghan strongly, questioning the institution she married into and highlighting its history. But then a viral clip changed the tone. Harry was seen at a film premiere speaking with Disney CEO Bob Iger, discussing potential voiceover work for Meghan. Trevor commented on the image of a prince networking for entertainment jobs. It wasn't scandalous. It was just unexpected. Royal marriages historically symbolized alliances and statecraft. Now, the visual was Hollywood hustle. That contrast reshaped the conversation for him. Once that perspective clicked, Trevor's commentary sharpened. He didn't attack. He observed. He framed it as a rebrand rather than a retreat, a pivot from palace to production deals. And once audiences viewed it through that lens, it was hard to ignore. Bill Maher approached it analytically. He argued that the core tension is wanting attention and resisting it at the same time. Public complaints about media pressure followed by global book tours and streaming launches. He compared that approach to Queen Elizabeth II's public style, decades of duty with minimal public grievance. The contrast, in his view, explained the backlash. Different generations, different communication strategies, but dramatically different optics. Maher's point wasn't about denying anyone's feelings.
Our Instagram-loving wife actually doesn't want her privacy. How dare you, sir? My Instagram-loving wife has always wanted her privacy!
5 minutes later.
It was about perception. When you speak about hardship from inside a multi-million-dollar home, the audience processes it differently. Fair or not, that's reality. And when multiple comedians across networks echo similar themes, it signals that the public conversation has shifted in a big way. By this stage, a lot of viewers felt the contradiction was impossible to ignore. You can talk about privilege and you can talk about hardship, but putting both in the same breath confuses people fast. That tension became the core of the criticism. The idea was simple. If you're living at the highest level of comfort and influence, the messaging has to match that reality. When it doesn't, audiences don't just roll their eyes. They push back hard. Bill Maher leaned into that point and made it feel safe for others to say out loud. His take wasn't loud, it was clinical. He framed it as a branding clash more than a personal attack, and that made it land. Nikki Glaser came at it from a different angle. She didn't build a long setup. She treated it like a strategy breakdown. Her argument was blunt. Hollywood can be slow and competitive. Fame doesn't always come on your schedule. Then Meghan met Harry, and the spotlight multiplied overnight. Nikki framed it as timing plus opportunity. Remove Harry from the equation, she suggested, and the global obsession never happens. It was sharp, and it was uncomfortable. But that's what made people react. Then the British comedians entered the conversation, and the tone shifted. In the US, it felt playful, sarcastic, sometimes exaggerated for laughs. In the UK, it felt personal. Jimmy Carr opened with a contradiction he believed was obvious. Meghan had built a public image around independence and self-made success. Then she stepped fully into royal life.
Girl, actress, influencer, victim.
Yeah, that's totally me! What matters is what we have on the inside.
For Carr, that pivot felt abrupt. He didn't shout, he just placed the two ideas side by side and let the audience process it. The reaction said everything. He didn't stop there. He brought up Harry's controversial costume from years ago, the one that sparked global backlash at the time. Harry has since spoken about regret and growth, and many believe he matured significantly afterward. But Carr's point was that history sticks. No amount of reinvention deletes old headlines. The internet remembers, and British audiences especially don't forget quickly. Money became another flashpoint. Critics in the UK focused on the public cost of royal security and travel during the early period of Meghan's time in the family. For taxpayers juggling everyday bills, that detail hit close to home. When someone speaks publicly about feeling overwhelmed while living inside palaces and flying private, it creates emotional distance. Whether fair or not, perception shapes reaction. Kelly Osbourne added her voice with a more direct tone. She argued that struggle is universal. Everyone faces pressure, loss, or stress. The difference, she said, is scale and resources. Most people don't navigate hardship with a global platform and multi-million-dollar contracts backing them. Her point wasn't that pain isn't real. It was that context matters. That comment resonated because it wasn't a joke. It was a comparison. She also reminded viewers that public history doesn't vanish. Apologies, charity work, and reinvention can shift perception, but screenshots and headlines stay archived. That idea applies to anyone in the spotlight. Once something goes global, it becomes part of your permanent record. That's the trade-off of fame. Simon Brodkin, known for pushing boundaries, actually watched the full documentary series before forming his critique. He admitted he went in skeptical. He claimed he left more frustrated. According to him, the early episodes touched on serious issues like
Markle, the only thing she found was a rich, famous husband.
The nearest thing Meghan Markle ever had to a billion-dollar idea was marrying a prince.
media pressure and bias, topics that deserved thoughtful discussion. But he felt later moments undercut that seriousness. One phrase Harry used to describe a date, comparing it to something explosive and exciting, struck Simon as oddly dramatic. For him, it weakened the gravity of earlier points. That tonal shift, in his view, cost them sympathy. He also mocked how much time was spent explaining royal protocol. Some commentators joked that certain traditions could have been summarized in one sentence instead of stretched across multiple episodes. That became another punchline, not because rules are simple, but because the storytelling felt overextended to critics. By the end of the series, British comedians weren't just teasing. They sounded irritated. The frustration wasn't only about Meghan or Harry individually. It was about narrative control, public funding, branding, and mixed messaging. When humor turns from playful to pointed, it signals something deeper in public mood. Across the Atlantic, the reaction stayed divided. Supporters argue that stepping away from royal life required courage, and that telling their story was necessary. Critics argue that the execution diluted the message. Both perspectives exist at the same time. But one thing is clear. Once comedians on both sides of the ocean lock onto a theme, it becomes part of the cultural conversation fast. By the time the backlash reached full volume, the main frustration people kept repeating was simple. You can't publicly reject an institution, criticize how it treated you, relocate across the world, secure massive media contracts, and still expect to hold on to every symbol of that same institution without pushback. For critics, that mix felt bold in a way that almost stunned them. They stepped away, but they didn't fully detach. They spoke out, but they kept the titles. They wanted distance.
Seed in America, I need a lifestyle brand of creams and supplements. Gwyneth Paltrow has Goop, Kourtney Kardashian has Poosh, and Jamie Lee Curtis has Poogert. Now I've got mine, Meg Goo, celebrating the sexy earth goddess in all of us.
Oh my God. You're probably the hardest worker in the world. I don't know anybody that's worked as hard as you. I don't know, I'm just doing my...
But remained front and center. That contradiction became the core of the conversation. Conan O'Brien spotted the absurdity in a way only he could. When their wax figures were quietly removed from Madame Tussauds, he didn't attack them directly. Instead, he leaned into the surreal humor of it all. He jokingly interviewed a museum employee who insisted, very seriously, that he was absolutely not doing anything strange with the stored wax statues. The punchline wasn't cruel, it was awkward. And that awkwardness is what made it sting. When even your wax version becomes a comedic prop, public perception has clearly shifted in a big way. Then came the lifestyle rebrand. Meghan introducing a small batch jam line from Montecito felt symbolic to a lot of observers. Tiny jars, elegant packaging, positioned as refined and thoughtful. On its own, there's nothing wrong with launching a product. Celebrities do it every day. But the timing and contrast fueled the jokes. Conan described it with straight-faced seriousness, which made it even funnier. A former senior royal, now marketing artisanal preserves. For critics, the jam wasn't just jam. It was a metaphor. There's something simple, elevated into something presented as meaningful and transformative. That framing stuck hard. John, Oliver's take carried even more weight because he's known for being careful. He's not someone who jumps on trends without analysis. When he suggested the couple seemed stuck in a cycle they couldn't break, It sounded less like a punchline and more like an evaluation. He wasn't mocking one moment. He was pointing to a pattern. Interviews about privacy followed by new projects that required intense publicity.
It's the biggest piece of dog shit.
The big revelation was that Meghan said that she and Harry actually got married 3 days before the royal wedding. Great, now I feel like a fool for waking up at 5 a.m. to watch two married.
Statements about stepping back followed by global media tours. According to him, the repetition was the issue. That observation resonated because it felt measured, not loud. But television wasn't the only arena. Online satire turned up the volume too. A well-known puppet satire show created exaggerated portrayals of Meghan presenting herself as warm, humble, and endlessly polished while subtly speaking down to others. The humor exaggerated real-life clips people had already seen. One sketch showed a cooking segment transforming something basic into a supposedly profound lifestyle lesson. It was clearly parody, but viewers connected it to the larger narrative, everyday moments reframed as premium wisdom. One exaggerated scene portrayed a dynamic where Meghan appeared increasingly powerful, while Harry seemed to shrink into the background. It was cartoonish, but it tapped into a perception some critics already held. Supporters dismissed it as unfair caricature. Critics saw it as bold satire. Then, just as quickly as it spread, parts of it reportedly vanished. And when content disappears, curiosity explodes. Attempts to quiet something often make people chase it harder. That's the internet effect. South Park took the satire even further. They didn't scream insults, they built irony into every scene. Their depiction of a global privacy tour became the cultural headline. A couple demanding space while doing interviews, magazine covers, and book promotions. Privacy, loudly announced to the world. The joke worked because the contradiction was visible without exaggeration. South Park thrives on spotlighting hypocrisy, and they didn't have to stretch reality much to make their point. They even reimagined Harry's memoir as an over-the-top tale of
call another human being your highness,
who destroyed her in-laws' family, whose own family doesn't like her, whose the in-laws obviously don't like her, the public doesn't like her. She's stuck because she was an actress who became a real princess, who wants to be an actress again, but has to continue to pretend to be
privilege mixed with endless grievance. The humor wasn't subtle, but audiences instantly understood the reference. That's what makes satire powerful, when viewers recognize the blueprint immediately. Then came the house hunting bit, a couple searching for quiet normalcy, filmed by a professional crew. The irony was baked in, no extra commentary needed. At this stage, the criticism wasn't isolated. American hosts used sarcasm. British comedians used sharper edges. Animated shows used absurdity. Online satire used exaggeration. The theme repeated everywhere: mixed messaging, wanting privacy while expanding visibility, rejecting the system while benefiting from its symbols, claiming independence while leaning heavily into brand partnerships. Whether that's fair or harsh depends entirely on your perspective. Supporters argue that they have every right to tell their story, launch businesses, and redefine their lives. They say stepping away from royal duty doesn't mean disappearing from public life. They point out that trauma, stress, and scrutiny don't vanish because of wealth. Critics respond that tone matters, optics matter, context matters, and when you speak about hardship from inside extreme privilege, the public reacts differently. Both arguments exist at the same time, and that's why the debate hasn't cooled down. What's undeniable is that comedy became the vehicle for public frustration. Late-night hosts didn't invent the contradictions. They amplified what viewers were already discussing. Once satire locks onto a theme, it's hard to shake. Every new project gets filtered through that lens. Every interview gets dissected. Every product launch becomes symbolic of something bigger. And that's where Harry and Meghan now stand. Not just as individuals.
That hat. Oh, God. He's so hot. Look at him. Isn't Prince Harry? She bagged a
but as ongoing cultural talking points. The question is whether this is simply the cost of fame in the digital age. When you choose a global spotlight, every move becomes content. Every decision becomes commentary. The internet never forgets, and comedy never sleeps. Or did they miscalculate how their message would land with everyday people balancing real-world struggles? That's the heart of it. Some believe the criticism is excessive and crosses into unfair territory. Others believe it's earned and even necessary. The truth likely sits somewhere in the messy middle. What's clear is that the public mood shifted, and once it did, the jokes multiplied fast. So now I want to hear from you. Did Harry and Meghan bring this wave of satire on themselves through inconsistent messaging? Or did the media machine and comedy culture push it too far? Drop your honest thoughts in the comments. I read them all. If you found this deep dive interesting, make sure to like the video, subscribe for more breakdowns like this, and share it with someone who's been following this saga. And I'll see you in the next one.